The big court building stood tall and cold. People walked in and out, dressed in clean clothes, holding files, whispering softly. Everyone seemed to belong there, except for one small boy. He stood alone outside the courtroom doors. His name was Hassan, and he was only 12 years old. His clothes were too big for his thin body. His slippers made a quiet sound as he walked. His eyes, wide and alert, looked around with fear and confusion. He held a small plastic bag in one hand. Inside it, just a dry piece of bread and a folded paper. It was his court notice. He was here to prove he did not steal. Inside the courtroom, people turned to look at him. Some raised their eyebrows. Others whispered, "Why is this boy alone?" No one stood beside him. There was no mother, no father, no lawyer, just Hassan. And the empty bench where a lawyer should sit. He quietly sat. Down on the other side, the judge, a serious-looking woman, noticed him. She looked at the file. "Name?" she asked. Hassan stood up and spoke softly. Hassan Noor, where is your lawyer?" I don't have one." The courtroom became very quiet. The prosecutor, Mr. Kamran, stood from his chair. He was a tall man, with shiny black shoes and a proud smile. He looked at the boy with amusement. "Your Honor," he said loudly, "this young man is charged with stealing a wallet from a businessman. He was caught near the mall. No ID, no parents. I request quick judgment." The judge nodded, but turned to Hassan. "Do you want to say anything before we begin?" Hassan looked down. Then he looked up again, his voice shaky, but honest. "I didn't steal it. It fell from the man's pocket. I tried to give it to a police officer." Mr. Kamran laughed. "Oh really? A street boy trying to return a rich man's wallet?" People in the courtroom chuckled, but the judge raised her hand. Quiet. She looked at Hassan carefully. "Do you know what happens here, boy?" Hassan nodded. "You listen to truth?" The judge was surprised by his answer. Outside the court, a woman sat quietly in the back row. Her name was Shazia. She wore a simple black dress, and her eyes stayed locked on Hassan. She whispered to herself, "That face. I know that face." She took out her phone and typed a message. "I found him. He doesn't know who I am." Back inside, the court continued. Mr. Kamran called the arresting officer. The man walked confidently to the stand. "Yes," he said. "I saw the boy holding the wallet. He looked around nervously and tried to walk away fast. That's when I caught him." "Was the wallet returned?" Mr. Kamran asked. "Yes." "And did the owner confirm it was his?" "Yes." Mr. Kamran turned to the judge. "There is no need for delay. The case is clear." The judge looked at Hassan. "Is this true?" Hassan shook his head quickly. "No, the wallet fell. I picked it up and gave it to the police officer. That one." He pointed to the same officer. "I even said, 'Uncle, someone dropped this.' But he didn't listen. He just pulled my arm." The officer looked away. The judge sighed. She turned to Mr. Kamran. "Where is the CCTV footage from the mall?" Mr. Kamran cleared his throat. The camera at that gate was not working that day." The judge narrowed her eyes. "That's convenient." But Hassan spoke up. "There was another camera. Not the mall's. A shop had one. I saw it." Mr. Kamran frowned. "Now he's teaching us where to find cameras." The judge ignored the comment. She looked at the clerk. "Send someone to check shops near gate 2. Look for private security footage." The clerk nodded and rushed out. A short break was announced. People left their seats. Mr. Kamran leaned back in his chair, smiling. "These street kids always waste our time," he whispered to a junior officer. "Just give them a lesson and throw them out." But he didn't know. Someone was listening. Shazia had moved closer. She heard everything. Her face turned cold. She remembered a case from years ago. A woman, crying in court, holding her baby. Her name was Samina Noor. And now, that boy's name was Hassan. Noor.Shazia. Quietly left the courtroom and walked to a small office. She met a young court assistant. "I need to see the file of a case from 6 years ago," she said. "Samina Noor Estate." The assistant searched. "It's sealed. Can only be opened with special permission." Shazia took out her ID. She was still a licensed advocate. "Then open it." She waited. When the file appeared on the screen, her eyes filled with tears. "It's her," she whispered. "And that boy is her son." Back in the courtroom, Hassan sat alone. He was cold, but he didn't shiver. He was scared, but he didn't cry. He just looked at the judge and waited. He didn't know who the woman watching him was. He didn't know his mother once stood in the same courtroom. He didn't know that today would change his life forever. But one thing he knew, and believed with all his heart: if I speak the truth, maybe someone will listen. The court was still in break, but Hassan sat quietly on the bench. He had no one beside him, no mother to hug him, no father to fight for him, no lawyer to protect him. But his small hands were folded in his lap, holding tightly to hope. Hope that someone, just one person, would believe him. Mr. Kamran, the prosecutor, returned to his seat with a cup of tea. He leaned back in his chair, legs crossed, eyes half closed. His voice was loud enough for others to hear. "These street kids are all the same. First they steal, then they act innocent." People near him laughed quietly. One of his junior assistants asked, "But sir, what if the boy is telling the truth?" Kamran scoffed. "Truth? They don't even know what that word means." He took a sip of tea, but across the courtroom, someone was watching him closely. The same woman in black, Shazia. Her eyes didn't blink. Her heart was beating fast. She had seen this man before. Years ago, and she had seen a woman cry in front of him, holding her baby, the same baby now sitting alone across the room. Flashback 6 years earlier. The courtroom was smaller then. A woman named Samina Noor stood shaking before the judge. She held her child close, tears in her eyes, dust on her clothes. She was accused of stealing medicine for her sick son. Mr. Kamran, younger back then, had stood tall and proud. He spoke coldly. Your Honor, the law does not change for emotions. Stealing is stealing. Samina had cried. Please, he had a fever. I begged the shopkeeper. He said no, but Kamran cut her off. She's just another woman making excuses. She was sentenced to 6 months, and when she was taken away, she screamed for her baby. That baby was Hassan. Back in the present, Shazia sat frozen. She whispered, this man destroyed her life, and now he's doing the same to her son. She stood up. She walked quickly out of the courtroom, and took out her phone. Outside the courthouse. Shazia called an old friend, a retired court clerk, who used to help her years ago. I need access to CCTV requests made by Kana. In any case, files involving Samina Noor. That's risky, the man said. He's powerful. Not more powerful than the truth, she replied. Inside the court resumed. The judge returned to her seat. She looked at Hassan. Are you ready, child? Hassan nodded. Mr. Kamran stood again. Your Honor, we've already heard the officer. The child had no ID, no family, and no proof. I asked the court to move forward. The judge raised an eyebrow. And the footage? Before he could answer, a court assistant entered. Your Honor, we retrieved camera footage from a private shop across gate. The USB was handed to the judge. Mr. Cameron's smile faded slightly. The judge nodded at the assistant. Play it. The screen on the side wall lit up. It showed a busy street. People walked by. A man in a business suit stepped into frame. He pulled out his phone. As he did, his wallet slipped from his pocket. Seconds later, Hassan appeared. He picked up the wallet, looked around, then ran toward the police post. Not away. Then came the moment where the officer stopped him. The screen froze. The judge looked up. Slowly, Mr. Kamran remained silent. The courtroom was full of whispers. Even the officer looked uncomfortable. Now, the judge asked Hassan, why didn't you say this earlier? I tried, Hassan said, but no one listened. They just saw my clothes, my face. A soft murmur spread through the court. Kamran cleared his throat. Perhaps the boy was returning the wallet, but that doesn't mean he didn't plan to steal it. The judge frowned. You just saw the video. He ran to the police. Kamran looked down. I apologize, Your Honor. Shazia re-entered the courtroom quietly and sat down again. Her eyes met Hassan's for the first time. She smiled gently. He looked confused. He didn't know who she was, but for the first time, he felt like someone was on his side. Outside the courtroom, a journalist who had been watching everything typed quickly. Boy enters court alone, proves innocence through truth and courage. Prosecutor actions now under review. Back inside, the judge took off her glasses. Hassan knew her. She said gently, you have shown bravery today. Most adults would break under such pressure, but you spoke with truth. She turned to Kamran. We will revisit this case, and others you've handled recently. Kamran looked stunned. But Your Honor, she raised her hand. Enough. The petite judge turned to Hassan again. Do you have anyone? Any family we can call? Hassan shook his head slowly. I don't know. I was taken from my mother when I was small. He pulled out the crumpled letter from his pocket. She gave me this. I kept it all these years. The judge took it and handed it to the clerk to scan. Shazia stood suddenly. Your Honor, I may know this boy's story. I knew his mother. Everyone turned to look at her. Hassan's eyes widened. The judge nodded slowly. Come forward, please. As Shazia walked to the front, Hassan whispered to himself, maybe I'm not alone anymore. The courtroom was silent. Every eye followed the woman in black as she walked slowly to the front. Her name was Shazia Malik, and though she hadn't spoken a word until now, she had been watching every moment closely. The judge looked at her. You say you knew the boy's mother? Shazia nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Her name was Samina Noor. The name hit Hassan like a wave. He stood up quickly. You knew? Miami? Shazia's eyes softened. I did. I was her friend, and her lawyer, a long time ago. A soft gasp rose from the room. The judge gestured for her to continue, took a deep breath. 6 years ago, Samina came to this court, carrying her baby, this boy. She had been arrested for stealing medicine and food, but she wasn't a criminal. She was a mother trying to save her sick son. Hassan sat down slowly, eyes wide. He had always wondered what happened that day. He remembered flashing lights, loud voices, and his mother crying. Shazia went on. She begged the court for help. She asked for a lawyer, but no one listened. Not even the prosecutor. Mr. Kamran? The judge turned sharply toward Kamran. He shifted in his seat, face pale. She was sentenced in 10 minutes, Shazia said. And when she was taken away, her child was left behind. Her voice broke a little. That child was Hassan. The judge asked, what happened to her after that? Shazia sighed. She was transferred to a small jail out of the city. I tried to find her, but then the records went missing. She vanished from the system. I searched for years, but found nothing," Hassan whispered. "I waited for her, every day." Shazia looked at him gently. "She never stopped loving you, she just never got the chance to return." The judge asked the clerk to bring out Samina's old case file, but when the folder was opened, it was almost empty. No witness names, no statements, no evidence files. The judge said. Shazia nodded. "That's because someone erased the record." She turned to Kamran. "Isn't that right?" Kamran stood up quickly. "This is nonsense. The case is 6 years old." "You have no proof," Shazia interrupted. "I have more than enough." She opened her bag and pulled out a copy of a letter written in Samina's own handwriting. It had never been submitted to court. The judge read the letter aloud. "To the court, please understand I did not want to steal, but my son was sick. I had no job, no money. I begged the shop owner. He refused. I panicked. I know it was wrong, but I did it for my baby. I will accept my punishment. Just don't take him from me." Tears filled Hassan's eyes. She wrote that. Shazia nodded. "She asked me to deliver it. I wasn't allowed in court that day." Cameron told the staff to block all visitors. Cameron shouted, "This is a lie." But the judge raised her voice. "Enough." She banged the gavel. "This court will now review the handling of Samina Noor's case, and all procedures used by Mr. Kamran in past juvenile cases." Kamran sat down, shaking. His perfect record was now full of cracks. The judge turned to Hassan. "You were taken from your mother unfairly. We will correct that mistake." Then she looked at Shazia. "Can you help us search for Samina Noor?" Shazia nodded. "I'll start today." After court, Hassan sat outside on the steps. Shazia sat beside him. "You said she vanished," Hassan said quietly. "Do you think she's still alive?" Shazia looked at him with hope and sadness. "I don't know, but if she is, we'll find her." She paused. "There's something else." She handed him an old photo. Two young women standing side by side. One of them was Samina, the other Shazia. She was strong, fierce. "She once stood right here and told me, if anything happens to me, don't let them take my son." Hassan held the photo tightly. "I want to know who did this." "To her?" Shazia nodded. "We'll find the truth. Together." That evening, the retired court clerk sent Shazia a message. "I found something. A sealed file. It's under a fake name, but linked to Samina. It's marked, Transfer Order Female Detainee. Special case. You need to see this, immediately." Shazia's heart raced. There was still more to this story, and someone, somewhere, had worked very hard to hide it. The courtroom was tense again the next morning. Hassan sat near the front, beside Shazia, who was now officially his legal guardian, and his lawyer. He wore clean clothes now, given by the court's protection unit, but his eyes were still the same, deep, quiet, and filled with questions. Mr. Kamran sat across the room, nervous for the first time. The judge entered and nodded to her clerk. "Let us continue the review of the case involving Hassan Noor, and the previous conviction of his mother Samina Noor." The court clerk inserted a new USB. A screen lit up. "This footage," he explained, "was recovered from a police station archive near the small town jail where Samina was taken 6 years ago." Everyone watched as the grainy video played. It showed a young woman being led into a building. She looked tired, but still proud. She held a small bag in her hand, the time stamped, March 2019. A few weeks after, Hassan was separated from her. "That's her," Hassan whispered. "That's Miami." Shazia squeezed his hand. The judge leaned forward. "Play the next clip." The video jumped ahead. It now showed a small windowless room. Samina was sitting on a bench. She was talking to a man whose face was turned away from the camera. There was no sound, but Samina's body language showed fear. Her hands trembled. She kept shaking her head. The man stood up, slammed his hand on the table, and left the room. The image froze. The judge asked, "Can we identify that man?" The clerk nodded. Double quotes, "Yes, Your Honor, based on time records and staff entries." "That man was," he paused. "Mr. Kamran?" Gasps filled the room. Kamran stood suddenly. "This is not possible. This is fake." But the judge silenced him. "You visited a prisoner without court permission. You forced a conversation in a locked room. That alone is misconduct." Kamran's face turned red. "I was following orders." She had to be. Had to be what?" the judge asked coldly. Kamran said nothing. The judge turned to Shazia. "Do you have any idea what happened after that?" Shazia opened a file. "This is a transfer order. It moved Samina from the local jail to a facility listed as undisclosed for safety reasons. But there's no signature, no destination." She held up the document. "This was a forced disappearance. Someone tried to erase her." The judge sat back in her chair. "This is no longer just about a child wrongly accused," she said. "This is about a cover-up, broken system, and the silencing of a mother." She looked at Kamran again. "Until further notice, you are suspended from duty." Kamran sat down slowly. His hands were shaken. The proud lawyer who once laughed at a poor boy now had no words to say. Outside the courtroom, Hassan stood silently in the hallway. His eyes were on the ground. Shazia walked beside him. "You were right, Hassan. You were always right." He didn't reply at first. Then he whispered, "She didn't leave me." Shazia nodded. Double quotes. "No, she was taken." Hassan looked up. "Do you think she's alive?" "I don't know," Shazia said gently, "but now the court will search, and I'll search too." She took out a small envelope. "I found this inside your mother's old bag." It was a folded photo of Samina holding baby Hassan, smiling. On the back, it read, "For the day he forgets my face, so he can remember my love." That evening, news channels showed the story. Boy who walked into court alone now turns the tables on the system. Judge orders investigation into missing prisoner Samina Noor. Top prosecutor suspended after shocking courtroom footage revealed. People across the city began to talk about Hassan. Some called him a fighter. Others called him the truth teller. But Hassan didn't care about fame. He only wanted his mother. The next morning, Shazia received a call from a retired prison nurse. "I saw your news," the woman said softly. "I remember that lady. The one who cried for her son." Shazia sat up straight. "Do you know where she went?" "I don't know exactly. But after she was taken, a high-level order came to mark her as dead. But I don't believe she died." Shazia's heart beat faster. "You meet me?" "Yes," the nurse said, "but be careful. Not everyone wants the truth out." That night, Shazia told Hassan everything. He sat quietly, listening. "She may still be alive," Shazia said. "But if she is, someone powerful didn't want her found." Hassan held the photo tightly. "I want to find her. I don't care how long it takes." Shazia smiled. "We'll do it. Together." In the final scene of the day, Hassan stood at a window in the court building. The city lights blinked far below. He looked strong now, not just brave, strong, not because his pain was over, but because he had survived it. But far away, in a cold, hidden building, a woman sat on a hospital bed. She stared at the wall, silent, forgotten. Her name tag was gone, but her voice, in her sleep, still whispered, "Hassan, my son." A cool breeze passed through the court garden. Hassan sat on a bench, holding the old photo of his mother. He looked at her smile, frozen in time, and whispered, "Where are you, Ami?" Beside him sat Shazia, watching him with quiet strength. She had spoken to the retired prison nurse last night. The woman confirmed something important. Samina Noor was not dead. She had been taken away and hidden. But where and why? There were still too many questions, and very few people who wanted the truth out. The next morning, Shazia returned to court. She stood before the judge and made a formal request. "Your Honor, I would like to call a new witness, one who worked inside the prison, where Samina Noor was last seen." The courtroom buzzed with curiosity. Even the judge raised her eyebrows. "Name?" Shazia looked toward the door. An old woman walked in slowly, holding a cane. Her name was Nurse Ruxana. She had once worked in the women's section of the district jail. Ruxana sat down at the witness stand. She looked nervous, her hands shaking. "A little," the judge asked kindly. "Madam, do you know the woman named Samina Noor?" "I do," she replied. "She came in 6 years ago. A quiet woman but strong. She kept asking for her child." "What happened to her?" the judge asked. "One night," Ruxana said, "an officer from outside came. He had papers, but no one saw them clearly. He told us Samina was being transferred for her safety." "Was this a normal transfer?" "No," she said quickly. "She cried. She didn't want to go. And after that night, we never saw her again." Shazia leaned forward. "Did anyone try to search for her?" Ruxana looked down. "No, the warden said to forget her, that she was unstable and dangerous. But that was a lie." She wiped a tear. "She was just a mother. They took her because she knew something. She said she had seen something illegal before her arrest." The judge frowned. "What did she see?" She said a lawyer and a policeman were working together to silence poor families, taking bribes to throw false cases, especially against women with no voice. Gasps filled the courtroom. Shazia looked directly at Mr. Kamran, who was now sitting silently in the back, no longer a part of the case. Rooks continued. "She said one of the lawyers involved was threatening her. She had a file. She hid it. I don't know where." Shazia's heart raced. A missing file. That could be the key. After court, Shazia and Hassan sat together. "Do you remember anything, Hassan?" she asked. "Any place your mother trusted?" He thought for a moment. "There was a small park with yellow flowers. She used to take me there. We had a hiding spot behind a bench." Shazia smiled. "That might be it." That evening, they went to the old park. It looked different now, dusty, overgrown, but the bench was still there, chipped and rusted. But standing, Hassan walked behind. He bent down and began to dig near a small rock. And then, he felt it, a tin box, wrapped in plastic. He opened it slowly. Inside was a small notebook with names, dates, and signed statements. Shazia's eyes widened. This is the proof she was talking about. They returned to court the next day. Shazia handed the notebook to the judge. "Your Honor, this file shows signed bribe records, dates of false charges, names of police officers and lawyers involved." The judge flipped through the pages. These matched real court cases. She looked shocked. "This notebook could bring down an entire chain of corruption." Hassan whispered. "She tried to stop them, and they punished her for it." Shazia nodded. "But not anymore. Now, her voice will be heard." News spread quickly. Missing woman's secret file exposes corrupt officers. Prosecutor Kamran and others under investigation. Boy's courage brings light to a buried truth. People all over the city began talking about Hassan and his mother. He was no longer just a poor boy. He was a symbol of strength. But the real fight was still ahead. Shazia sat down with a special police team. They were reopening Semena's case. They were now officially searching for her. There's one place she might have been taken, the officer said. A private mental facility. No court records. Only private admissions. What's the name? White Crescent Home. Shazia. Eyes narrowed. She had heard of that place before. It was known to be silent and secret. That night, Hassan stood at his window again. He looked up at the stars. He held the notebook close to his chest and whispered, I'm coming for you. Amy, I'm not alone anymore. Far away, inside a small hospital room, a woman stared out of a window, her eyes tired, her lips dry, but she whispered the same words. Hassan, I'm still waiting. The sun was still rising when Shazia walked into the courthouse with Hassan by her side. This time, Hassan was not just a quiet boy sitting alone. He was a name now, a voice of truth. His story had spread across social media. People were talking. The system was shaking, and the man who once laughed at him, Mr. Kamran, was finally being called to answer. Inside, the courtroom was full. News reporters filled the corners. Lawyers whispered nervously, even the judges. Tone was different today, sharper, stronger. We are here to review the charges against Prosecutor Kamran Javad, accused of manipulating juvenile cases, hiding evidence, and participating in forced disappearances. Kamran stood, looking older now. His confident smile was gone. Shazia stood slowly, calm, and prepared. Your Honor, she said, this is not just about my client Hassan. This is about how many like him were punished without proof. She opened Semena's hidden notebook and laid out copies of names. These are all poor families, all falsely accused, and all judged by one by one. Victims' family members entered the courtroom. A mother who lost her son to a false theft case. A father whose daughter was locked up for a crime she didn't commit. Each told their story. Each pointed to one name, Kamran. The courtroom grew silent after every word. Kamran's face dropped lower and lower. He tried to speak. I did what the law asked me to, but the judge cut him off. No, Mr. Kamran, you used the law. You twisted it. You hurt people for your own power. She turned to the security team. Place Mr. Kamran under arrest. Formal trial will begin next week. As the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, Kamran looked at Hassan for the first time. He didn't see a poor boy. He saw the boy who broke him. Hassan looked back without hate, just truth. Outside the court, reporters surrounded Hassan and Shazia. One asked, Hassan, how do you feel now? He looked into the camera and spoke simply. I came to court alone, but now, I speak for all the kids who were hurt like me. The courtroom drama had shaken the whole city. People were talking in tea shops, on buses, in schools. A 12-year-old boy had walked into court alone and exposed the lies of a powerful man. But for Hassan, it was never about fame. It was always about one thing, finding his mother. That night, Hassan sat with Shazia in her office. The notebook they had found was now with the investigation team, but Shazia still held on to one last thing. Something Hassan hadn't fully read yet, his mother's final letter. He unfolded the fragile paper. Again, his fingers moved slowly across the faded words. Shazia read it with him. Asterisk, my son, if you are reading this, I am either far away or lost in this world, but never in my heart. Don't forget your name. Hassan knew her. And don't forget mine, Semena knew her. One day someone will ask you who you are. Tell them this. Asterisk, I am the son of truth. And truth never dies. Hassan looked up at Shazia, eyes filled with emotion. She believed in me. Even when she wasn't with me. Shazia nodded. She left you her name. That's something powerful. He smiled a little. But I want her back. I don't want just letters anymore. Shazia placed a hand on his shoulder. I think we're close. She showed him a printed map. This is the location of White Crescent Home. The mental care facility nurse Ruxana told us about. She pointed to the building on the edge of the city. It's private, hidden, and controlled by people who worked with Kamran. Hassan's eyes narrowed. So maybe, she's in there. Shazia nodded slowly. And if she is, they've kept her silent all these years. The next day, they went to the facility. The tall gates were locked. The guard at the entrance looked suspicious when Shazia showed her lawyer ID. No visitors allowed. Patients are private cases only. Shazia replied calmly. Then show me your admission list. The guard refused, so Shazia made a call to the judge who had helped their case. Within 1 hour, court officers arrived. The gates opened. Inside, the rooms were quiet. Too quiet. Women sat in corners, some whispering to themselves, others looking lost. But one nurse, recognizing Shazia, came closer. I remember someone came in 6 years ago, said her name was Semena, but they changed her record, gave her a different name. Where is she now? Hassan asked quickly. The nurse hesitated. Room 37, but she doesn't speak anymore. She just stares at the... While they walked down the long hallway, Hassan's feet felt heavy. His hands shook down room 37. The door opened slowly. A woman sat on a small bed. Her hair was long and gray now. her clothes plain, her eyes tired. She looked up, and for a second, just a second, something in her eyes moved. Hassan stepped forward. Emmy? The woman blinked. She stared at him. Silence. Then her lips parted. Hassan. His heart stopped. Emmy, it's me. It's really me. Tears filled her eyes. Slowly, she raised her hand and touched his face. I told them I'd see you again. Shazia turned away, quietly crying. Hassan hugged his mother tightly. For 6 long years. This moment had waited, and now, truth and love had finally found their way home. But the story wasn't over yet. Outside the window, 2 men watched from a parked car. One of them picked up a phone. They found her then. We have a problem. The sun was shining over the city, but inside room 37, time had stopped. Hassan sat next to the hospital bed, holding his mother's hand. For a long time, they said nothing. They didn't need words. Their silence was full of things too deep to speak. 6 years of separation, 6 years of pain, and now, a moment of peace. Shazia watched them quietly from the doorway. Her eyes were soft, but her mind was alert. She had seen the 2 men in the car earlier. Their behavior was strange. They didn't look like journalists or doctors. She quickly snapped a photo of their license plate and sent it to the judge's office, just in case. She texted. She had learned by now the truth was powerful, but some people were still afraid of it. Later that day, a medical team confirmed what they already guessed. Samina Noor had been drugged for years, not for illness, but for control. She had been listed under a fake name, with no legal file, no contact, no outside voice. She remembered everything, the doctor said, but no one believed her, so she stopped talking. Until she saw Hassan. Her son had brought her voice back. The court moved fast after that. A special case was opened against the White Crescent home. Files were uncovered. Doctors were questioned, and the truth was clear. Samina Noor was never mentally unstable. She was hidden because she knew too much. At the next hearing, the courtroom was full again. But this time, Samina Noor herself walked in. Slowly, but proudly. The same woman who had once cried while holding her baby, now stood strong with that baby. Now a brave young boy, holding her hand. The judge stood to greet her. Miss Samina, this court owes you an apology. Samina nodded. Don't want revenge, she said softly. I just want no other mother to go through what I did. Mr. Kamran and others were formally charged. His voice was no longer loud. His suit didn't shine anymore. He looked broken as the lives he once laughed at. The judge turned to Hassan. Your truth helped us uncover years of injustice. Do you have anything to say? Hassan stood up. He was still small, but when he spoke, the room listened. I came to this court with no lawyer, no one on my side, but I had the truth. And the truth brought my mother back. It saved others too. I'm just a boy. But I know one thing now. When no one speaks, bad people win. But when even one person speaks the truth, the world can change. The room was silent. Then, slowly, everyone clapped. Even the judge had tears in her eyes. Outside the court, news reporters surrounded them again. But this time, Samina stood. Beside her son, she wasn't just a lost mother anymore. She was a survivor. A fighter. And Hassan. He wasn't just a poor boy from the street anymore. He was the boy who made the world. Listen, a few weeks later, Hassan returned to the old bench where everything started. He placed a flower there. It wasn't for pain, it was for hope. Shazia sat beside him. She smiled. Are you ready for school now? He grinned. Only if you're helping me with homework. They both laughed. Samina joined them, holding teacups in her hand. For the first time in years, they were a family again.